In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to make a glow effect in Photoshop. We're going to use two different methods to create this composite. In the first method, we're going to use curves adjustment layers to create contrast between the light and the color in the image. Then we're going to use gaussian blur and screen blending modes to really make those pages of the book pop and look like a light source. These are both great methods for creating a nice glow effect, and you can use either one of them depending on the look that you're trying to achieve. So without further ado, let's get started. With this photo open, the first thing that we want to do is bring out some contrast in the colors. So anything that's glowing, we want it to be really warm, and everything else, we really want to cool it down. The best way to do that is with a curves adjustment layer. So let's go ahead and grab one. Come down to your adjustment layers and grab you a curves. In the RGB dropdown, come on down to reds. Drag your red on down until the output says about 245. Grab your little green guy and drag him on down until the output says about 220. Let's call this layer Cool Curves. Now let's go ahead and mask out everything that we want to remain warm. And as you know, with a mask, white reveals and black hides. We're just gonna brush with our black brush tool all the bits that we want to remain warm, wherever the light is gonna be. I have my flow set to 40% and my opacity for this brush is at 100. You can use your You can use the backslash button to see more clearly what you're doing with your mask. We're going to actually include this light as well because we want to retain the warmth of this light source. Now, in order to create contrast between the cool and the warm color tones, we need cool and warm color tones. So let's go ahead and get another curves adjustment layer, and this is going to be the warm curves. Come down to the reds and bring those up just slightly. Come down to the green and bring the greens up slightly as well. Just like that. Call this layer Warm Curves. Hold Alt or Option as you click on the Cool Curves mask. Hit Controller Command A to select it all and Controller Command C to copy it. And then click on your Warm Curves mask and hit Controller Command V to paste that mask. Hit the backslash button and Controller Command D. Now we don't want the exact same mask. We actually want that mask inverted because we want the white to reveal the warm colors on the curves that we just made. So let's go ahead and hit Controller Command I to invert that mask. Now you can see the warmth that we just created with those two adjustment layers. Now we want to create contrast between the lights and the darks. So once again, we're going to grab a curves adjustment layer and we're just going to bring this slider down until the output reads around 80. As close as you can get to 80. Call this Dark Curves. Hold down Alt or Option and click on the Cool Curves mask once again. Controller Command A to select it all. Controller Command C to copy. And click on the mask on the Dark Curves layer and hit Controller Command V to paste it. Backslash key, Controller Command D to deselect. And look at that. You're already starting to see the glow. But let's create even more contrast with a light curves layer. Grab yourself another curves adjustment layer. Just drag those curves up until there's a nice glow. Call this layer Light Curves. Alt or Option, click on the Dark Curves layer mask. Controller Command A, Controller Command C. Once again, click on the Light Curves mask and hit Controller Command V. Hit Controller Command I to invert that mask. We've got a pretty nice glow going on, but this is the part where we're going to do the gaussian blur screen blending mode thing to really bring those pages out so they pop. So duplicate your background layer by hitting Controller Command J. Let's call this right away Book Pages. Grab your pen tool. Make sure that your pen tool is set to path and not shape. That's important. And just draw a selection around the pages of the book. Come over to your Paths tab and click on this little dotted circle to turn that into a selection. Create a layer mask from that selection and double click on that layer mask. Set the feather to 5. Say OK. Now with your brush tool and with the color white, let's go ahead and paint in these little pages down here that weren't selected initially. Go ahead and duplicate this layer by hitting Controller Command J and set this layer to screen. Right away, let's convert it to a smart object and then come up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and then set the radius to 5. Duplicate that layer, double click on the Gaussian Blur, and now set the radius to 15. Duplicate it once again, double click on the Gaussian blur again and set the radius to 30. Now every time we duplicate these layers and increase the blur, it's making that glow on the pages more and more prominent. Duplicate it once again, double click that Gaussian blur and set the radius to 50 this time. And we're gonna actually duplicate it one last time and we're gonna set the Gaussian blur to 100. Now look at that. That is really a beautiful glow, if I do say so myself. So this is like a lot of layers. We don't want all these layers. I'm gonna go ahead and select all these book pages and come on down to this little folder down here and I'm gonna group them all together. We're gonna call this Book Pages. Super creative. Now that's starting to look really good, but I think there's something that we can do to make it look even more magical, and that's to bring in some sparkles. So let's bring in some sparkles, just little particles. Right away, set the blending mode on this sparkles layer to screen. I'm gonna actually call this sparkles. And just position the sparkles so that they look like they're coming out of the book. Round about like that. Hit enter when you have it positioned, and then hit Control or Command and click on the thumbnail of the sparkles layer and create a new layer mask. On your layer mask, with your brush tool, paint out these hard edges and any part of the sparkles that are overlapping on the outside of the book. Personally, I want my sparkles to just be white, so I'm gonna come up to Image, Adjustments, Black and White. And that looks so beautiful, but there is one last thing I'd like to do to make the colors really pop in this picture. Make it more like fairy tale fantasy looking. I want to bring at the very top a new adjustment layer, a gradient. I'm going to click on the gradient, and on the left tab I'm going to double click it to bring up the color, and I want to make it like a really rich royal blue. On the right tab, I need to actually click this one up here to make sure the opacity is set to 100. And then I'm going to double click and I'm going to make this color a really beautiful, vivid orange, like an orange sunset. Adjust the angle so that the orange is on the bottom left and the blue is on the top right. Say okay. And now just set this layer to overlay, and you have got a beautiful, dreamy, fairy tale glow. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you got a lot out of this tutorial, and I hope that you feel more comfortable creating a glow effect in Photoshop. Follow along for more. Feel free to reach out in the comments if you have any questions. Until next time.